Welcome, everybody, to the Genesis Mindset. In today's episode, I'm going to be doing a roundup of the Atropa ecosystem in 2023. So I want to just bring in all the information that I discovered from 2023 and just summarize it all in this video, and then give you an understanding of where I believe that we're headed in 2024. So in some ways, this is going to be a prediction video about where I see the Atropa ecosystem and, more importantly, how it relates to Pulse Chain. For me, that's the most important thing. I think because I talk about Atropa so much, people think maybe I'm an Atropa maxi or something like this. Not even in the slightest. I love what it's doing. I think it's fascinating. I think it's something we should be proud of because it's an ecosystem that I do not see on any other chain besides Pulse Chain. But nevertheless, it's really all about Pulse Chain and what it can do for Pulse Chain and cryptocurrency at large. So with that said, let's get into the episode. So welcome to the Genesis Mindset. As always, this is mindset for investing, trading, and life. This is my personal opinion only, for entertainment purposes only, not financial advice. And like I said, this is going to be a roundup of the Atropa ecosystem in 2023 and where I think the Atropa ecosystem is going to go in 2024. So Atropa in 2023. So what we discovered basically is that the Atropa ecosystem is some kind of a formula. So it's some kind of a formula that's been applied into this field of energy. And let's call this field of energy pulse chain. And this formula injects life into that field with these zero value tokens. So it creates these different tokens with zero value and it injects liquidity into them. And as these different tokens are bonded or connected with other different tokens within the Atropa ecosystem and with Pulse Chain at large, the market actually brings value to the ecosystem by trading those assets. So for example, Pulse Chain, as things rise and fall, it all raises together and lowers together. And this is Hart's law. And what actually makes it unique compared to anything else is the design of the liquidity bonding. It's not just arbitrarily bonded like you would see in every single other chain. This is uniquely designed from the ground up. And so what does a system like this actually mean for the world? This is what I'm interested in. This is always what I've been interested in cryptocurrency, decentralized finance. What actually is real DeFi? Is this the steps towards real DeFi? And I'm fascinated that as I'm going back and reflecting on the kind of things that I was seeing and then reflecting on later down the track, seeing what I actually discovered in the chat logs, how on point a lot of these predictions were. So there's no actual bots. This is something that has been debunked. There are no bots. It's really just leveraging off the arbitrage bots that exist within Pulse Chain. So that's really what the bots are. So there are no like 414 or Atropa bots. It's really just liquidity bonding, creating new tokens, and then the bots within Pulse Chain do the work. So it's actually a financial system. This is what makes it so phenomenally unique. It's not an individual token that exists on its own within an ecosystem. It's creating an ecosystem within the ecosystem. And the ecosystem that it's trying to create is a financial system. So for example, we have the legal tender, which is like government mints. So it can be drawn on the treasury bill and it will have a specific purpose, which will be highlighted later in the client when they actually develop the UI for the client. So there's a trust. So basically it backs different currencies. So for example, Teddy Bear, which is currently going bonkers, backs treasury bill. And there's also mint functions. So there's mintable tokens like MV, where anyone can come along and mint them, and they're intended to help burn Pulse Chain. And basically there's all these different financial instruments. So it's assets that are manipulating token values and ratios. Not really manipulating, actually. That's probably the wrong word. It's just assets that are bonded together in certain kinds of ways that creates a certain kind of outcome with all the different kinds of ratios and properties of those assets and tokens. And like I mentioned earlier, the Atropa for me is bullish for Pulse Chain. Very, very bullish for Pulse Chain. ETH didn't grow on its own for no reason. It's the life that was on it that made it grow. It was all the different tokens on it that made it grow. Bitcoin is a unique narrative. It's a store of value. It started with a store of value. Now it's like reserve currency and all of these things that Bitcoin is. Now it's actually starting to develop an ecosystem within itself because it's running out of legs. It needs to start creating things to attract new buyers, new money. But this is very unique. The Atropa ecosystem is not an individual token. It is an ecosystem, and it's designed. Unlike what you see in Ethereum, liquidity bonding isn't designed in Ethereum. It's very arbitrary. And so this makes it the magic source. It's about creating value in copied ERC20s and PRC20s to entice those users into this phenomenal network. So this is not necessarily something that Atropa is doing, but this is like a byproduct of what people have discovered through Atropa and a lot of the things that Richard Hart has said about bringing in value into the ecosystem, bridging in your ERC20s, pairing up the ERC20s with the PRC20s, pairing up those ERC20s with stablecoins and Pulsechain, and through liquidity bonding, things are moving up and down. There's arbitrage between them, and then you yourself can manipulate the different, well, not manipulate, you yourself can take advantage of the arbitrage. And that's something that I'm in the process of learning. And once I do learn it, I will eventually share those findings in the future. This is a new narrative. The whole thing about Atropa is a new narrative. For example, even though Wrapped Bitcoin, Richard came out and I wouldn't say denounced it, but basically kind of separated himself from it in a way. But either way, our free internet money is better than your free internet money. We also have the pDAI stablecoin narratives. This whole thing is bringing a whole bunch of eyes because of narratives, and they're new narratives. Okay, LPing. So this is what it's really all about. And this for me is really a big part of what real DeFi is. When I first learned about DeFi, it was this idea that I could own a part of a system. I could actually be someone who provides liquidity, and in that way, generate yield from it. I love that idea. I love that idea of passive income. I love that idea of just leaving my money there, going away, not having to think about it. I do like to trade and degen. You might also like to do that, but you also might like to be someone who really in the ethos of Hex is really just stake and leave it. And that's part of what real DeFi is, just liquidity providing. And I think this is a big part of what Atropa is. So earning fees in liquidity pools, in liquidity pairs. And so pairing tokens and liquidity bonding them, so Hart's Law, and owning the network and living off the LP fees. So there are some people already within Sonny's Pub who really, they've just been putting in small amounts, but as you put small amounts in and more liquidity comes into it, they don't even need to sell their whole position. They actually understand how to work with the ecosystem. It's about working together. It's not about me creating a liquidity pool and then everybody coming after me and then dumping on everybody. That interestingly enough, that is not what is happening within Atropa. It's actually attracting people who have a group mindset, a coexistence mindset, a collective mindset. They actually want to work together to build something where all of us can benefit, not just a few of us can benefit. That's really something that's very unique about Pulsechain, with this idea of liquidity providing. But like anything, it does need value, but it should be about the value that it gives, not just what it takes. And I look around and I see a system of created value that is a net positive for Pulsechain. So again, some people have looked at isolated instances between what Maria has done and, oh, this thing did a rug pull. They don't see all the liquidity that Maria's put into it and other people have benefited from it. They'll only see where Maria took liquidity out of it. And I don't see any issue with that. I don't see any issue with that. If that was part of the greater good, if that was part of something where I needed to pull liquidity from that to put it into these other things to buffet the whole system, I'm okay with that. I really, really am okay with that. It's unfortunate that people have had a loss as a result of that, but I think it's something that we really need to try to see the totality of rather than just the individual thing. It's very easy to look at an isolated incident and say, oh, he did this or she did that. But when you look at the scale of incidences, there's cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. And I'm trying to see the totality of what's happening with Atropa, and I only see benevolence. That's all I see. So as I mentioned before, the pDAI, this is still a very unique narrative. Has it been debunked? We don't know. So we have the pDAI make a DAO payment. It actually has nothing to do with the 414 dev has nothing to do with those funds. So they only watch Hex. So this is something where people thought, oh, the 414 dev has something to do with that, but it's not been the case. She's come out and said that it hasn't been the case. Then there's the bots. So the bots actually, they don't run any of the bots. They just work within the ecosystem. So if those assets are liquidity locked, then it gets harder and harder for the Pulse stablecoins to go down anyway. It's a solid theory and the contracts are in place now. So as the liquidity thickens up and it's thickening up and thickening up and thickening up, maybe it's designed in such a way where if pDAI and these stables eventually get to around about the dollar, The liquidity is thickened up so much by virtue of all the things that it's bonded up with, it's going to be impossible for it to drop below $1. I have no idea. People might wildly dump. I can tell you, I'm not going to be one of those people. I want to be someone who holds that state. It's a stable coin. If we've created our own stable coin, why would I sell it? Why would I go, hang on a minute, why do I want to dump this? I want to be someone who actually provides that liquidity. I want to generate yield off that. That's what I want. And I want to live off that yield. I don't want to dump it all and destroy the price. I want to live off that yield. So Maria 414 has been doxxed. So Maria Rahel, as everybody knows in the IRCs, man, woman, does it really matter? I'm going to go with woman because she's my bae. Created the IRC token to verify themselves. So basically anything that they have done in the IRC chat logs has been shown in the blockchain. So everybody knows that this Maria Rahel is actually someone who they say they are. And they have mentioned that they have enough funding to continue indefinitely with developing the Atropa ecosystem. But as always, it's about everybody working together. It can't just be, it's not going to work with just one person. It needs to be decentralized. It needs to be everybody working together. But just like any system, there's always like a core nucleus, and then there's the outer rim. So it's the same thing. So you could say Maria Rahel and these early investors into the Atropa ecosystem are the core nucleus. It's like that with every single thing in life. This is no exception here. And so it's proven to be a benevolent force overall. So as I mentioned before, you should look at the totality and not individual events, and you'll see for yourself. So there's been people saying, oh, it's liquidity extraction, and it may have happened. I'm not denying that. It may have happened, but I've had people suggest that, oh, they've taken liquidity out of Pulsechain and moved it into Ethereum. That doesn't mean anything. That just means they've moved it into Ethereum. There's opportunity there. They're trying to grow it in Ethereum. Then maybe they're going to bring it back into the ecosystem and add more value into the Atropa ecosystem. You don't know that. We don't know that. We can't judge it based on these individual circumstances. It's like, it's cause and effect goes back to the day dot. It goes back to forever and ever ago. So really, that's why we're all related in some way. So the 414. So I also did a very extensive research on the 414 chat log, and now I'm kind of just monitoring it on a day-to-day basis and just trying to see if there's anything new that's happening. And so, is it complete? So Maria said that it feels complete right now. As a gambit, it is winning. So this was months ago, by the way, when this was all said. And I think it's definitely proving to be the case now. So the locked liquidity set is designed to provide a token of a capital strategy that is ostensibly better than a meme or even stable coins by retaining a fault bottom specific floor for buyers and a largely buffered loss on sales due to the buy to liquidity ratio. Are we not seeing this in Teddy Bear? Have we not seen this in Atropa? Have we not seen this in pDAI? We've seen it in every single one of these tokens that are liquidity bonded, and the ratios with the liquidity bonded. It's creating forever floors. So tokens thus far represent the best of my capacity to define a legal tender complex financial instrument that satisfies all the requirements of the plays on money, including the fears associated with the absolute worst case scenario. So this is a complex financial instrument. This is what makes it unique. It's not just an individual token, it's an ecosystem of tokens that is creating this complex financial instrument. So in the same way that we have the global financial system, we have central banks, we have money filtering out from them, stock markets, all of these things, the Atropa ecosystem is trying to mimic those functions on this. That is real DeFi. That is brilliant. We don't see it anywhere else. That was the thing that was really making me resonate to it. That's the thing that still makes me extremely bullish on it. But I think a lot of people are missing that point. The pDAI narrative. I believe someone will show up in Pulsechain that can answer that better than me. I think the ecosystem has covered all the various trust models that currency backers play. That was the goal on having more than one token from the launch. The Atropa token was initially divided into a hedge fund, TSFI, a work fund, LOL, the savings account, down, and then the legal contract was set up as the initial non-mintable locked device. So again, financial instruments working together. And if you look at liquid loans, there's all these different functions of that financial ecosystem that's happening within liquid loans. Wave motion. This is something where people, even now I've heard Maria describe it as endocrine, an endocrine system, but this is something that's really stuck. So wave motion, the operating word the ecosystem is aiming for currently is production. The idea all along has been to map out like fluid constitution, the set of concepts and definition that makes the ecosystem a good investment, and currently, whether a thus mapped out set of such monetary tied concepts can be considered production quality at all. So again, if we look back, this was 3 months ago, can we say it's been a success so far? They haven't broken all-time highs, but they're heading towards that. I would say that so far it's been very successful. So production, this is something very big. This is the purpose, production quality. What does production quality actually mean? So I'm interested in an investment production with momentum. I hope that the liquidity locking currently places the system moving forward, not entirely in any individual control. This is real DeFi, not in anybody's individual control. There are a number of situations that could occur as the network becomes more attractive. The ownership on Teddy Bear has been most proactive, and I could see it taking off first because of the profit to the large investors. Has it not? Has it not been a key part of it? Moon King, Ian, shilling on Rand Nunes, has it not been a key part of it? So there's all these things that was said months ago, which are coming to fruition now. This is a very, very good sign to me. There's been no rug pull. There hasn't been any rug pulls. I'm sorry for anyone who thinks it's liquidity extracting. I think you should definitely look into this a lot more deeper and see the beauty of what's actually happening here. Don't look at an isolated incident. If you got into CIA and it got rugged, don't look at that isolated incident. That was an experiment. The whole CIA, the liquidity, the tokens were actually sent to someone who was basically proving themselves to be someone who was a benevolent force in the ecosystem. And they got all these tokens. They didn't even know. And then the price started dropping. Then they saw they had all these tokens and they started selling as well, which further destroyed the price. It was an experiment. They sent these tokens to this particular person, and this person, well, they quote unquote failed that test, but they're now proving to be a benevolent force in the ecosystem. They didn't know how to act. Now they do know how to act, and they're continuing to act in the betterment of the ecosystem. As we see more and more of this behavior, the ecosystem is only going to benefit. Into production again. So I think I'm interested in exploring what production quality LP pairs would mean. In terms of mechanism, if 100% of an asset is placed on LP and that LP transferred so as to be locked, and then the asset is purchased back, it makes that LP asset production quality. But the threshold is less severe than that. So in other words, creating a liquidity pool, sending it to like a burn address or locking it away that you can't actually touch it, and then it gets bought back. So you're removing that sell pressure and only creating buy pressure and thickening liquidity. So consider this third-party risk scenario. Imagining you have, for example, $1 billion in pDAI. You create your own asset, lock 50% of your new asset with 50% of your pDAI, and burn that LP. In my opinion, you have created at that point a production quality asset that could be considered for pairings with the Atropa ecosystem. How exactly it gets paired is a lot of options depending on the philosophy of what you're doing. Okay, meme coins. Yes, there are meme coins. Teddy Bear. Teddy Bear has been phenomenal to bring eyeballs. There's been like thousands of new wallets that have come into Pulsechain. It's bringing value to Pulsechain. This is the main thing. And I still think Teddy Bear is going to be one of the best. And the formula, new layer one, Pulsechain, Tick, Atropa, mystery narrative, and Pumpermentals. This is the magic sauce. This is what people aren't seeing, the liquidity bonding. If Atropa moves up, Teddy's going to move up. If something in there moves up, Teddy moves up. It's so thickly bonded with everything. Like Teddy has this magic sauce. Shiba Inu doesn't have it. Pepe doesn't have it. Doge doesn't have it. Bonk doesn't have it. Nothing else has it but Teddy Bear. It's memorable. It's cute. It's a Cycle 1 coin. Big influencers shilling it. Has a strong community. It's going to be the best meme coin on Pulsechain. I really have very high conviction on that, and I will stand by that comment. And I'm going to ride that comment till the end. And I actually do think if Pulsechain ends up being one of the biggest layer one narratives this particular cycle, then Teddy's going to be the #1 meme coin in all of cryptocurrency this cycle. So what about where Atropa is headed in 2024? So the development of this UI. So in the chat logs, Maria mentioned like $5 to $20 buy-ins, attracting people, seeing where does my money actually go? If I put $5 in into this route, where's it actually going to go? What do I need to do? How long do I just need to leave it there? Development of a games. So this idea of all the different liquidity routes. So we've seen that chart with, you have those 4 different systems connected to Atropa, and then those systems all have different routes connected to them. So how can a game can be integrated with this? So Maria was talking about like a hallway, defeating bosses, getting tokens from that. This whole thing feels like a game. Discovering the chat log feels like a game. Like putting money here or there, it feels like a game. It feels like cryptocurrency as well, yes, but it really does feel like a game. Upward movement, more liquidity pairs, more bonding, more strength, higher floors. It's something that we started to see towards the end of 2023. Atropa tokens being paired up with other tokens within the ecosystem. PTGC was probably one of the main ones that started to do this and set the example. HOA started to follow. Rob has started to follow. HOA has been brilliant with liquidity bonding and created a forever floor. HOA still, though, is an individual token within the ecosystem. It's not an ecosystem of tokens. Still, that's the defining feature of the Atropa ecosystem. It's an ecosystem. It's not an individual token. I think that gives it strength. Maria also just today mentioned layer 2. So she's my bae. She's my baby girl. Every day I'm trying to read that chat log. Some days it makes sense. Some days it doesn't. Most days I read it. She's my bae. So I'm going on an adventure with her. Come on the adventure. Come on the adventure, because it's not just Atropa. Whenever I talk about these things, because I'm saying Atropa, everyone thinks it's just about Atropa. For me, Atropa is an ecosystem that began on Pulsechain and only on Pulsechain, but it's connected to everything in Pulsechain. So we should actually be proud of this innovation. This is DeFi 2.0, DeFi 3.0, whatever you want to call it. Should we actually be tribal amongst our own chain? No, it's all about my coin. No, it's all about my coin. If I mention Atropa to another person who holds another token, they get really annoyed, and that's disheartening, because I don't have a problem whatsoever with their token, but then they have a problem with this token, and I think that's a really it's a very narrow mindset. We should broaden our minds and be proud of this ecosystem that's developing on Pulsechain. Atropa has set the standard. Atropa has set the scene right below everybody's nose. Nobody even saw it happening. Only months and months into it, people started to discover it. That's part of the beauty of it. It's this game. It's like this thing to discover. So again, I'm a meme coin agnostic. I think they're all great and they all serve their purpose, but Atropa is uniquely designed as an ecosystem, not as an individual coin. This is the magic sauce. This is what makes it brilliant. The liquidity bonding. This is what makes it unique. This is why it's like, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years time, if Atropa takes off, it's going to be a model for how decentralized finance works. In my opinion, it's a structured financial system within a blockchain. If it actually works, if it actually takes off, this is going to be the first time it actually happened. It was on Pulsechain. How good is that for Pulsechain? How bullish is that for Pulsechain? That we were able to attract that kind of innovation here. The innovation of Richard Hart attracted the innovation of other people who saw that this could actually be a possibility. No one has done this on any other chain. You do not see this on Solana. On Solana, you see the same behaviors as you've seen in all of cryptocurrency, in all of traditional finance. Just pump and dump, churn over the marketing mechanism, get retail in there, and then shit all over them and dump on them. They lose, you win. You and your top dogs win. That's the same thing. We don't see that with Atropa. I'm not seeing that with Atropa. I'm seeing collectivized assets where everybody can win. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Hopefully that was a good little roundup of 2023. Where do you actually think it's going to go in 2024? I'm extremely excited for 2024. We've got the halvening coming up. Bitcoin has had a hit. Everybody's leverage longs got taken out. Makes it really interesting. I actually think probably now maybe Bitcoin and everything just chills. Bitcoin chills until the halvening. I think it's had too much legs. I don't think it's going to break all-time high before the halvening. It could go against popular opinion, but I think it's going to cool off. If Ethereum starts to rise and Bitcoin keeps dropping and Ethereum rises, then hopefully we see a nice little alt run between the next 3 months. And then after that, we got the halvening, and then shit's going to get real. Hopefully that's kind of my prediction with where things are, but that's just a guess. Thank you very much, everybody. Take care.